right, good evening. It's a wonderful Sunday evening. You're welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goel PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. I'll grab a Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show tonight. Tonight, we are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port. Now, we will be getting interactive with you, so all you have to do is sit back, grab your phones, and send us your messages and comments via our WhatsApp line, which is 0538 037353. 0538 037353. When the time is ripe and I pick signals from the production team, we're going to be activating the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us.
Ohima, what are you taking number first? By you.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, for the mechanic, I'm watching.
That's it.
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Fill up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goel.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goel Super XP Ron 95. Goel, good energy.
Goel is good energy. Electricity. Then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes. Future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. We are now going to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, the board and some top management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority had cause to visit the Jamestown Fishing Harbour, which construction has been completed. We bring an update from there. Plus the fact that the board of the Ghana Revenue Authority has also commended staff and management for exceeding the mid-year target, revenue target for the authority. We have these and more. Please enjoy.
Construction of the Jamestown Fishing Harbour has been completed on schedule, with operationalization expected to begin before the end of this year. The new fishing harbour was constructed under a $50 million Chinese government aid for a period of 4 years. The fishing harbour sits on 60,000 square meter land and has been optimized with modern facilities such as an ice-making plant that can produce 60 tons per day on average, a cold store that can store 200 tons of fish, 2 workshops, a fish market that can accommodate 200 sellers per day, ancillary stalls, an administration block, and a crèche for children. Ahead of the official handover and commissioning later this year, top management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, led by the Director General, Michael Achagwe-Luguje, has visited the project site to inspect works on the facility. The GPHA boss, who was satisfied with the work done, stated that his organization will bring its experience in managing fish ports to bear on this facility and urged the entire fishing community to work together with GPHA to take excellent care of the fishing harbour for the benefit of all Ghanaians.
Naturally, the fishing ports themselves, by nature, they are not huge income generating facilities, but the facilities will continue to be expensive to maintain. But we have to add that as part of our collective GPHA responsibility. We see the fishing harbours more as welfare projects that are supposed to at least enhance the community and livelihoods. So that is the angle we are looking at it. And we have that responsibility to make sure that they are efficiently managed. But definitely, users of the facility will use them for free. They will pay something. They will make some contribution towards covering the operating cost. And I think we can only just be grateful to the government, and of course to the Chinese government for this partnership that has led to this facility.
The general manager in charge of engineering at GPHA, Engineer Komla Ofori, told Iron Port more of what the facility has to offer.
If you can estimate close to 4,000 people working here in a day, as it were, so it's quite packed on the site. We have used the site well, optimally, to get the best facilities within this small space. I believe that even the land facilities far exceed what the sea can bring. So if you're expecting canoes bringing fish here, the volume of fish that will come in here will not be enough for the land facilities that we have. So ice, for example, may have to be sold to people inland who may need ice for other things, or fish brought from elsewhere for storage, depending on what the situation will be.
In 2019, the government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, began the construction and rehabilitation of fishing harbours and landing sites across 12 coastal towns in Ghana. The beneficiary towns include Axim, Diskov, Mori, Mamford, Winneba, Senyabreku, Gwamwafete, Ekumfi, Elmina, Teshi, Jamestown, and Keta. These are expected to help maintain a hygienic environment for the processing and handling of fish while preventing and minimizing post-harvest losses for the fishermen. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority is supervising the construction of all 12 fishing ports and landing site projects as the nation's agency responsible for building, managing, and operating all ports and port-related infrastructure in Ghana.
Chief Director of the Ministry of Transport, Mabel Isego, has said that the contract with Ashanti Port Services Limited, the concessionaire selected to develop the Buankra Integrated Logistics Terminal, was terminated by mutual agreement. Speaking to members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Roads and Transport, Mabel Sego said APSL was unable to meet the financial terms of the contract despite several engagements and extensions leading to the termination. The Boankra Integrated Logistics Terminal project is owned by the Ghana Shippers Authority with support from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and the Ministry of Transport and is funded by the Government of Ghana. The visit by the Select Committee on Roads and Transport on Wednesday, July 3, 2024, was in response to media reports that APSL had filed a writ at the Ghana Arbitration Center invoking the powers of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law Arbitration to retrieve damages amounting to over $3 billion for contract termination by the Ghana Shippers Authority. Briefing the Select Committee, Mabel Sego explained the need for the tarnation.
We have requested that they present or submit the amounts that they have spent so far or they spent with respect to the event. We still haven't received any from them. Even before the contract was terminated, we gave him ample time. There was a letter we wrote, and that was after a meeting with them, and we all agreed in May that should they fail to achieve the financial close, we were going to terminate by August, and they all agreed.
Project consultant Dr. John York briefed members of the committee on work done so far for Phase 1.
Line is currently under development. So in the near future, if the Western Line gets to Kumasi, that's what I was talking about, that stretch, that gap from Eduardin all the way to Boankra, that 66 kilometer, if it's fixed, goods from the Takrady port can come to Boankra as we wait for the Eastern Line to also go through the emotions.
Chairman of the committee, Kennedy Nyakwose, commended the Ministry of Transport, Ghana Shippers Authority, Just More Construction Limited for their hard work.
Chief Administrator of the ministry has spoken, and she made a categorical statement that they've gone to PPA to seek approval. They've gone to Ministry of Finance to get all that they needed to do. Maybe there are some few things that they have to wrap up, but in terms of regularization, they've gotten the approval from PPA, everything. That's the most important thing, which they've gotten it. As part of the challenges, maybe after the response from the ministry, when they go, the next review, they will review whatever they've written in there. I think that is the most important thing.
Ranking member of the committee, Isaac Ajay, called for increased engagement with the community. The CEO of Just More Construction, Justice Amo, pledged the company's commitment to finishing the project on schedule. The board chairman of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Joe Gatti, has commended the Commissioner General of GRA, Julie Siam, and her management team and competent staff for their outstanding performance in exceeding the 2024 mid-year target. In a statement signed by the GRA board chair, he said, "This historic performance comes during a challenging year characterized by seasonal challenges, including an elections year." The board stated that this performance demonstrates the continued trust they have reposed in management and staff in working against all odds to deliver on their mandate. The board of the Ghana Revenue Authority called on valued stakeholders and taxpayers to provide support to the authority to improve on revenue mobilization. The third edition of the Corporate Games, organized by Crisis Management Solutions Company, LCB Worldwide Ghana, has come to a successful end. The football tournament that lasted for 2 months is one of the company's CSR initiatives intended to boost solidarity among stakeholders in the business community. Among the 16 teams that participated, GPHA's fire department emerged as winners for the Tema zone, whereas the team representing the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, won the Accra zone, with the Ghana Dock Labour Company and Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders coming up as runners-up for the respective zones. In addition to the winners' trophy, cash prizes include 10,000 Ghana cedis for winners, 5,000 Ghana cedis for runners-up, and 3,000 Ghana cedis for second runners-up. Felix Segbaya and Philomena Oklu of LCB Worldwide Ghana touched on the relevance of the event and revealed that plans are being made to upscale the tournament even further.
There was no major criteria in selecting the participants in this particular tournament. We extended invitation out there, and those that accepted the invitations are the ones that are currently playing in this tournament.
It has been 3 years down the lane. I mean, we are looking at making it bigger, maybe the 4th one subsequently. As organizers, we want to sit with management and see how best we can make what the other ones, the ones that will come later, more fun and exciting. All right, today we are playing on an AstroTurf. Who knows, maybe the next one we will be in a bigger arena or a stadium. So yeah, the future is positive.
All right, so those were some happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We say congratulations to the Fire and Safety Department of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority for emerging winners of the Tema zone of the competition as corporate games by LCB Worldwide Ghana Limited, the Crisis Management Solutions company. We're now going globally to see what's happening on the maritime and shipping industry.
The Iranian Navy frigate Sahand sank entirely on July 9, 2024 in the southern port of Bandar Abbas, according to the NOAA news agency. The warship capsized on July 7, 2024 during repairs due to water ingress. It was repositioned with tremendous effort on July 8, but eventually succumbed after the vessel's rope broke. NOAA News, a Supreme National Security Council affiliated news agency, reported that the Sahand warship, which was rebalanced with great difficulty, has now sunk entirely after the ship's rope broke. Efforts to stabilize the ship were ineffective, eventually sinking in shallow waters. The vessel's displacement was 1,300 tons, and it boasts powerful weaponry, including anti-aircraft batteries, electronic warfare systems, helicopter flight deck, sophisticated radar systems, surface-to-surface and surface-to-air missiles, and torpedo launchers. Several people were injured and hospitalized after the incident.
Several international maritime associations have published a policy statement regarding the International Maritime Organization's carbon intensity indicator, reflecting on its shortcomings and making suggestions for improvement. The CII, which came into effect on January 1, 2023, requires ship owners to collect data for their annual CII rating based on a ship's CO2 emissions, distance sailed and size. Every vessel is given an annual rating on a scale of A to E. Stolt-Nielsen, a Norwegian company specializing in chemical and bulk liquid transportation and storage, was one of many maritime stakeholders who raised concerns about the issues concerning the CII. One of the main challenges is that the indicator largely comes down to speed and route optimization and spending less time in port. However, there are many factors, such as congestion, terminal delays, and the weather, that are beyond any company's direct control, the company explained in May 2024. International Maritime Associations BIMCO, Cruise Lines International Association, Intercargo, Intermanager, International Chamber of Shipping, and Intertanko have now shared a policy statement as part of their collective commitment to safe, sustainable shipping on clean seas.
Those were some international ports and shipping news. We're now going for the word or phrase of the day. And remember, the word or phrase of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. Today's word is floating cranes. Floating cranes.
Floating cranes refers to heavy-duty cranes that are able to handle exceptionally heavy cargo if unable to use conventional gantry cranes.
All right, so we are now zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we are taking a look at Ghana's quest to transition to electric vehicles, and we're having some update from the Ministry of Transport. Now, last year in December, Ghana government had the opportunity to launch Ghana's e-vehicle policy during the COP28 in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and this launch was performed by no mean a person but His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And we also pick signals that I mean, we are going to have the construction of, what do we call it, charging points, you know, across this country. There are a few people who have begun using electric vehicles here, and if there's anything to go by, I think that is welcome news in our quest to transition. We also pick signals that Intercity STC has also signed a contract with some private entity to bring in some 100 electric buses. 100 electric buses. And so this is welcoming news, and we want to have an update from the ministry how far we've come in our quest, what transpired in Dubai at COP28 last year, where we are at the moment, and going forward, what our expectations should be in terms of our desire to go e-vehicles. And so with us in the studios tonight, we have Mr. Daniel Essel, who is the Deputy Director at the Policy Programs and Monitoring and Evaluation Department or Directorate at the Ministry of Transport, who is here with us in the studios. Indeed, he was a guy in charge of the rest of the team, you know, at COP28 in Dubai last year. And so he's seen it all, and he's been at the forefront of assisting the minister, the deputy ministers, the chief director, Madame Mesiba, and then the rest of the team to ensure that we run with this particular thing. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for obliging us and coming for this particular program and discussion, Mr. Essel. I think this is your first time on our report?
Yes, Bernard, thank you very much.
Bernard is the politician.
For having me, and good evening to your viewers also.
Right.
In fact, this is my first time, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so I just want you to give us a brief about what transpired during Ghana's launch of the e-vehicle policy in Dubai last year. If you can just walk us through some of the things that happened, and then we can, come to today's discussion.
Okay, so if you recall, last year, we and maybe to your viewers, we started an exercise. And the idea was that, yes, the world is changing.
Absolutely.
And Ghana not being an island, we also need to change. And that's the main reason why we needed a policy to guide that process. In fact, we went through a process, and finally we got to Dubai, where it was a meeting of all the parties, the UNFCCC, that's the countries that are signatories to the Paris Agreement. And in fact, that was a big stage where Ghana could showcase what we've done as far as the EVs are concerned. And it gave us that opportunity to let the world know what Ghana seeks to do going forward. And I think in the EV policy, we have given a clear indication and more or less to send the market signals to investors, users, private sector on what the government of Ghana seeks to do going forward.
Right. Okay, so I think at this juncture, let me get to the team and then find out if they have the clip during which His Excellency President Akufo-Addo was launching the policy in Dubai. If it's ready, if you can show it briefly, and then we'll continue the discussion.
Your Excellency, it gives me pleasure at this moment to call the man who has been at the forefront of guiding and directing all these people at cabinet to come up with these beautiful policies where we aim at putting Ghana on the world map. Please help me welcome His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Second Lady, Ministers, Deputy Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here today at this Global Climate Change Summit to unveil Ghana's National Electric Vehicle Policy, which has been developed to guide and promote the uptake of electric vehicles in Ghana. Indeed, not too long ago, I had a similar opportunity at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York to unveil to the international community an investment plan to promote Ghana's energy transition. The plan aims to raise over the next 40 years some $550 billion United States dollars towards the implementation of low-carbon solutions in critical areas of our economy, such as oil and gas, manufacturing, agriculture, transport, cooking, and electricity. With the Energy Investment Plan, Ghana hopes to be carbon neutral by 2060, which represents an upward review of our previous goal of being carbon neutral by 2070. The Energy Investment Plan underscores our commitment to promoting green sectors, development of cutting-edge low-carbon technologies, and ultimately propelling us towards a sustainable economic revolution and social well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may be already aware, Ghana's emissions are expected to rise from 28 million tons of CO2 equivalent in 2021 to some 140 million tons in 2050, with the transport sector accounting for the biggest increase. This will be driven mainly by population growth, increased GDP per capita, and vehicle ownership. I'm confident we can reverse this trend if significant actions are taken to transition with cleaner electric vehicles, promising to be game changers in this process. The launch of the National Electric Vehicle Policy is thus critical in modernizing our transport sector. The advantages of electric vehicles are not limited only to environmental conservation, but also to reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. I'm certain that the National Electric Vehicle Policy will enable us to create new jobs and opportunities for our people in the renewable energy sector, as well as strengthen the growth of our economy as we work together to create a sustainable future. The National Electric Vehicle Policy sets targets for the number of electric vehicles on our roads by 2030, whilst also offering incentives to manufacturers and users. The government of Ghana has shown commitment and will continue to work with all players to create a green future. Some reliefs that have been considered for the implementation of the policy include the following, which have found expression in the 2024 national budget. A, waiver of import duties on electric vehicles designated for public transportation for 8 years. And B, waiver of import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles brought into the country by registered electric vehicle assembly companies for the same 8-year period. The transition to electric vehicles is necessary not just to ensure the health of our planet and reduce carbon emissions, but also to provide a better and brighter future for our children. The National Electric Vehicle Policy will help ensure that future generations inherit a cleaner and greener environment, as well as a more sustainable transport system. The process of formulating the policy went through extensive stakeholder consultations at the national and subnational levels, involving regional administrations, ministries, departments and agencies, private sector organizations, civil society organizations, transport operators, auto mechanics, and other identifiable groups. I believe this is a policy with which stakeholders can identify, and I thus encourage everyone to embrace this policy, support it, and work together towards creating an electrified transport system in Ghana. I'm expectant that the implementation of the National Electric Vehicle Policy, in conjunction with Ghana's Energy Transition Investment Strategy, will not only contribute to the reduction of emissions, but will also expedite the progress of sustainable development. This will ensure that Ghana contributes her quota to global greenhouse gas emissions reductions, whilst also achieving decarbonization, energy access and security, and energy efficiency. Accordingly, ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor and pleasure to declare Ghana's national electric vehicle policy duly launched. There you have it. And I thank you for your attention.
So that was His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who launched the electric vehicle policy, Ghana's electric vehicle policy, during the COP28 in faraway Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And so you heard the very important things that he said about it and urged the generality of the Ghanaian people to support this particular dream of us transitioning to green energy or to electric vehicles. And so once again, let me say my guest is in the studios, Mr. Daniel Elsel, Deputy Director at the Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Department or Directorate of the Ministry of Transport. And he gave us his preamble on why he thought that this particular policy was put together. So let me come back to you and find out some of the salient issues you seek to address with the e-vehicle policy.
Yes, so Ken, if you have followed the climate discussions,
yes.
One of the biggest issues facing us, not just Ghana, but globally, is carbon emissions.
Absolutely.
Mainly from the use of the hydrocarbons that we have. When I say hydrocarbons, I mean the fossil fuels, the
yes.
petrol and diesel and all that. The issue is that it's not just bad for the planet, but it's also bad for our health.
Absolutely.
And it was one of the reasons why in 2015 countries came together to sign the Paris Accord. Now, what Ghana did was to submit what we call the nationally determined contributions. It means that as a country, what can we contribute as far as reducing our emissions are concerned? In that, we have submitted what they call NDC 1.
Yes.
Then NDC 2, nationally determined contributions.
Not National Democratic Congress.
No. This is nationally determined contributions. So in that, we have our commitment as far as the Paris Agreement is concerned. Now, we've also followed with keen interest what is going on, not only in Ghana, but across the globe.
Yes.
We've heard news of Europe in terms of the transition that, yes, at a certain period, I think they are looking up to 2040, 2035.
Yes.
They are going to cut production of fossil fuel-based vehicles.
Yes.
And same for other countries. So you look at all this and then you ask yourself, are you an island? That because for your vehicle mix, in fact, we do import almost everything in terms of the vehicles. Just recently, I think in 2019, that we started the local assembly of vehicles, but mostly come from import.
Yes.
The worry here is that they don't come in new, come in used.
Yes.
Mainly, the last time we checked, over 80% of the vehicles that we import into this country come in as used vehicles.
Yes.
In vis-a-vis, how do you then ensure the maintenance? And so the use of the fossil fuels is a big issue.
Absolutely.
And without some targeted interventions, not just Ghana, but in fact, the whole globe, we have what we call the climate emergency. And that's one of the reasons why we needed to drive a certain agenda to clean, or more or less, to decarbonize the transport sector. So these are mainly the main reasons why we needed to come out with some framework to guide the transition process. In that, you're also mindful of what you are doing locally.
Yes.
You know, Ghana just found oil.
Yes.
And with oil comes money.
Yeah.
It's important that in your transition process, you think about not just on the environmental side, but the economic aspect of it.
Absolutely.
So that's how we have approached our policy going forward. Yeah.
Now, there are those that are of the view that it is quite expensive if we want to, transition to, e-vehicles. And last weekend, myself and some colleagues were having a discussion, as a preamble to this, as a prelude to this particular discussion. And what the The argument some of them raised was the fact that it's quite expensive to purchase an e-vehicle here and bring it. And some of the arguments also centered on, what do we call it? I think we had a meeting, yes, I recall. Also centered on insufficient charging points and all that. But we picked information that, yes, plans are far advanced for the, construction of charging points across the country. First of all, I would want you to bring us up to speed with this, what the plan is to ensure that we have efficient or enough, what do we call it, charging points across the country to be able to feed or to be able to assist and help vehicles that would come into the system so that they can charge and have a seamless, process in terms of, connecting to and fro.
Okay, so as we speak, the ones I could mention offhand, we have about 6 charging points currently.
Okay.
All in Accra. This ranges from level 1 to level 2 and 3 chargers. Level 1 charger means that when you plug your vehicle, within 8 to 12 hours, you should be able to get from 0 to a full charge.
Okay.
Level 2, between 5 to 8 hours, you should. And the level 3, which are DC chargers, means that within 30 minutes, you should be able to get a full charge.
Right.
There are 6 of such chargers here. I think we only have 1 DC charger, which I think is located in Kaneshi.
Okay.
There's one at Medina Mall. There's one at ANC Mall.
Okay.
There's one at Moving Pick.
Okay.
And then Total Energies also have one. And then I think there's I can't, but yes, we have about six of them.
You mentioned Moving Pick?
Moving Pick.
Okay.
ANC Mall. There's one at Kaneshi.
Kaneshi, yeah.
And then there's Total.
Total and the Medina.
Yes, and the Medina, I think 5, but
okay.
I'll pick up the last one and
right.
share with you. So you'll notice that, yes, these are just in Accra. And for EVs, it's more of a chicken and egg issue. You need the charging infrastructure for the vehicle. But whoever is also investing in the space also want to be assured that there's enough demand on the services.
Exactly.
So without the charging infrastructure, the uptake will be a bit difficult. Yes, there are options to charge at home. You can plug it in your home socket and all. But your house has to be fitted for that purpose.
Right.
Otherwise, you run into difficulty. So what we have done, yes, we do encourage home charging.
Yes.
You need to go.
So you can charge overnight.
You can charge overnight, but you also have to make sure that you are not putting yourself in danger.
Right.
Because having uncontrolled installations can lead to some disasters. And therefore, the Energy Commission have been very key on this in terms of the deployment of the charging infrastructure. In fact, the Energy Commission have just approved some standards for the installation of the charging infrastructure. So whoever is coming within that space have to go by a certain framework. And that, I'm sure, they are rolling it out. There are also quite a number of programs to develop charging, and this we are doing it in collaboration with the private sector. What has been done so far, the 6 are all private sector led. There's no government involvement, all private sector. It means that the business case is good for the charging infrastructure. So once we're able to scale that up, then I'm sure we should be able to show a fair distribution of the charging network across the country. I'm aware of certain programs to develop charging infrastructure, not just in Accra, but in other parts of the country. Which I think is a good initiative that we should be able to drive that and make the uptake of the EVs very visible.
Ideally, how many charging points do we require as a nation to be able to transition smoothly?
It will depend on the numbers that you're looking at. For instance, if you have a DC charger of, say, 180 kilowatts, which can even charge a bus, within 30 minutes it should be done.
Right.
But if you encourage installation of level 2 chargers, which is you need about 5 to 8 hours. Imagine a vehicle parked at a parking spot within 8 hours to charge. So you have to look at the mass of it and where to put what.
Yes.
In the commercial sense, for example, if you are looking at intra-city operations where you're able to have a firm idea of their route, you can plan the charging infrastructure along those lines. But once you move out of that space, then you need to have a very good look about how you then deploy the charging. I've seen examples where they've been able to map out an entire area, what needs to be where, in terms of the charging infrastructure and then the capacities. I think we have to have a certain plan in terms of the deployment of the charging infrastructure.
Right.
How would the network look like? But it's also good to know where would the demand be.
Right.
Especially the vehicles. So which areas or which communities have EVs and all that. That makes information key, especially who is bringing the EV, where are they located, and their use.
Yeah.
These are some of the mass around the charging infrastructure, which I think we have to.
Do you have an idea how many EVs we have in country at the moment? Any rough estimates?
The last time I checked, we had about 19,000
EVs.
Plug-in hybrid.
Right.
So the EVs...
Hybrid, that means it's not strictly...
It's not strictly...
electric.
Fully electric.
Yes.
So it runs both on conventional and then the... The electric.
19,000.
19,000. But those that are full battery electric, at the last count, they were about 2,000. That's the data from the DVLA.
Wow.
But bear in mind, we also have quite an uptake of 2- and 3-wheelers, which are running on EVs.
Yes. We have what?
2- and 3-wheelers. So I
2- and 3-wheelers, yeah.
I mean the motorcycles.
Yes. The tricycles and all, yeah, sure.
So
right.
We've also seen them coming in their numbers, and I think there are even some that are into delivery of food items. So I think it's something that is growing.
Yes.
The numbers keep but it wasn't the data that we were recording.
Right.
But with the whole discussions about EV,
yes,
really now is taking some data on that, and we're able to really report on their numbers.
All right. So, what progress have we made since post COP28? Post COP28, what progress have we made? Have we made any progress? Any strides?
Yes. So, since the launch, locally, you could see a lot of interest.
Right.
A lot of interest from the private sector wanting to come on stream.
Right.
There are people that have even set up assembly plants. There are people running courier services using electric bicycles. I know of a few ones that are operating in Accra.
Yes.
There's quite an interest to develop charging infrastructure, especially from the private sector. And you could also see that consumers are very enthusiastic. They want to bring them in.
Right.
And the key question, as you said before, has been the CAPEX.
Yes.
In terms of the initial cost. When you take an EV, you are just replacing a fuel tank with a battery.
Right.
And then an engine with a motor.
Right.
So these are the two key components of an EV. The batteries and then the motor,
yes,
which will run the fuels.
Yes.
The biggest cost of that whole vehicle is the battery.
Right.
Which is about 30 to 40% of the cost. So if the car is 20,000 USD,
yes,
then you might have the battery alone costing about 8,000 USD. So that's how costly it is. At the last count, we had about 16 or so dutiable items on that vehicle.
Right.
So it makes the cost very expensive, apart from your initial FOB price of that vehicle. The add-on duties makes it very expensive for. So what did government do? And if you heard what the president mentioned, that some considerations were done in the 2024 budget.
Yes.
To waive those tax.
Right.
Some of those taxes. And the biggest one is the import duty.
Right.
As we speak, the import duty on hybrid or electric is about 20%. It's based on the ECOWAS Common External Tariff. Right. So it's one of the items, and it's 20%. Once that duty is waived up, it's going to really cut down the CAPEX.
Right.
And those pronouncements were made in the budget. Yeah. And from discussions with Ministry of Finance, they are going through that process to give effect to it through Parliament to make that work. And in granting those exemptions, government were very categorical that where should the focus be. Yeah. For us, for any private car, I think your vehicle, you drive from your home to your office, you park it there, leave it for hours, and then you drive back. Yeah. But for the commercial operator, averagely they do about 200 to 300 kilometers a day. Yeah. So their frequency of use is huge. Yeah. So where would the impact be in terms of the emission savings and the rest? Right. So government otherwise that, okay, why don't I go into supporting vehicles designated for public transport? Because that's where the frequency of use is. And so for what we have done, the focus in terms of incentives is on
public transport.
Public transport. Now that is not all. For all others, we don't want to encourage import.
Right.
The idea is that let's encourage local manufacturing. And in that case, the incentives that have been given on that is also to encourage the SKDs, that the semi-knockdown and then the complete knockdown vehicles right here in Ghana. So if you are bringing them in for assembly, then you qualify to, whether it's a private vehicle or whatever, you come under those exemptions. So that's the way. So for import, yes, if it's commercial, you come under those exemptions. But for anything outside commercial operations, you have to bear the full cost. But on that side, we are encouraging local production.
A key component that would get this particular quest or this particular desire to be realized is stable power supply. Now, there are those who argue that we perhaps are still grappling somewhat with power supply, energy supply, and all that. And don't you agree that if we don't have, stable power, this might hinder our desire to, as it were, transition?
Ken, from what the energy people are telling us,
the Ministry of Energy.
Ministry of Energy.
Right.
We have an installed capacity of about 5,000 megawatts. And out of that, when you turn all the ACs and whatever in the country, because of the peak demand, you have close to about 3,500.
So there's still some excess of about 1,500.
Excess supply. And that was one of the main reasons why the Energy Commission launched the Drive Electric Initiative.
Right.
In that, how do you make productive use of your excess energy?
Right.
So the idea was that one of the options was to drive the EV agenda, because the EVs can be the partakers of those excess energy. So as far as the energy is concerned, yes, there's excess capacity. I think the key issue is about the grid and then the harmonic values as to where the loads are and how the grid itself can manage it. I'm told that the national grid has been designed with a certain figures in mind, that maybe you may have one washing machine, one electric canyon, and so your peak demand would be about 2 kilowatts a day. And that's how the network has been modeled.
Right.
Now, when you bring in an EV, you are taking about 8 times that amount at a go. So it has effects on the grid, depending on the numbers that come on the grid. And bear in mind, all the generators, the transformers, have a certain capacity. Once they exceed, they shut off.
Yes.
So if you don't really know where the demands are going and plan the infrastructure, that's where you may have the lights sometimes trickling and going off and all that.
Right.
Yes, the demand is there, but we need to look at the infrastructure, making sure the network is smart enough
Right.
to support the charging of the EVs.
Okay, so I'm sure you would have heard about the discovery of lithium in our country. And, you know, first of all, I also understand that some of these chargers have batteries. If you are maybe an electric vehicle, it has batteries. And so maybe you charge the batteries. If you have like 3-4 batteries, you use one spare, and then you charge the remaining. And so you are able to use that along the way in the course of your journey. And so you keep changing until perhaps you arrive at your destination. Is that right?
Okay, so for the benefit of viewers, the EV, the battery is not the 12 volts or the 18 volts or the 15 plate or whatever they call it in your vehicle. No,
right.
It's far from that.
Yes.
It's the weight itself can be half the weight of the car.
Right.
So it's so heavy that you can't be changing it the way people might think. The vehicle itself,
so is it safe to say half of the vehicle is the battery? Like
half of the vehicle is the battery.
Wow.
Half of the vehicle is the battery.
Okay.
And in fact, that's the weightiest component.
Just like the engine.
So you are only taking the engine out and then putting in a battery, your fuel tank. So that's the weightiest part. The mass doesn't help with the saloon and big trucks and the rest. But you're able to change batteries on smaller units.
Right.
Like the 2 and 3 wheelers. So if you have a motorcycle that is electric, you can have what we call battery swap stations.
Right.
So you're able to change battery once the one on it goes down, and then you replace it. So in certain jurisdictions, they have set up battery swap stations across the area where you operate it. Once you run out, you go and then you exchange and pick a fully charged one. So that is easier for smaller units. But once we are going into the saloon cars, buses, trucks, and the rest, the mass won't help you. It doesn't work that way.
I know in other jurisdictions, when you go, they have this the bicycles that run on electric, and they have the charging points, you know, in the center of the town or in advantage points. You go and then you see them lined up and they are charging, and people go to, you know, rent to go and do their stuff and go and change or something.
I think you are referring to the scooters.
Yes.
So that is an area that we have to be very careful about.
Okay.
In that they are quite dangerous in terms of the operations. And, road traffic regulations, in fact, we have a clear definition of what a vehicle is and what can be allowed on the road. I bet you scooters
are not there.
Not part of the operation.
Okay.
And you see people with scooters on highways and on streets. And those are a danger to the public.
Absolutely.
Once they are electrified, there's no audible noise coming from them. So you say jack, they are just behind you. If you are not careful, it becomes a nightmare. So yes, issues of what can be allowed on the road need to be taken seriously. Then standard itself, in terms of what Ghana we want to allow as far as the transition is.
Yes, that was one of the issues I wanted to, the fact that it is silent, that by the time you realize, it's passed. And so people are afraid that, you know, sometimes in Ghana we are used to a car coming and making a sound, and you know that, okay, there might be horns though, but I mean, they said the way it passes, Charlie, that's a submarine. Before you realize it's just by you, or it passes, and then sometimes as an I also can cry like, hey.
Oh yes. In fact, I've seen and what some jurisdictions have done, in terms of the standards, that one of the requirements is for that vehicle to have an audible noise.
Okay.
So what they would include as part of the vehicle makeup is a sound that sounds like an engine, like a vehicle is approaching.
Okay.
So you might think it's a normal IC
vehicle that's
engine revving, but it's not. It's an EV, but with that audible, because of the safety aspect of it.
Yes.
It goes back to the point of some awareness that really you need to build greater awareness on EVs, help people really understand the operations of it and what can be allowed in and what cannot and all that.
Right. Okay. So this is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we are taking a look at how Ghana's transition has been so far in terms of electric vehicles. And we are picking some updates from the Ministry of Transport. With us in the studios, Mr. Daniel Essel, Deputy Director at the Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Directorate at the Ministry of Transport, bringing us up to speed with what progress we've made so far as far as our quest to transition to electric vehicles is concerned. This is Iron Port here on Metro TV. We are going for a quick break. When we return, I would continue the show. Please stay with us.
Ohima, we are taking number first. By you. Take the number, give me.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Mame, Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Euro 95.
Well up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy. Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome to the GPHA port of Takoradi, Ghana's first commercial port. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority (GPHA) has in its quest to position the ports of Ghana as the leading trade and logistics hub of West Africa, embarked on a massive expansion drive at its Takoradi port, the first commercial port of the country. This has resulted in a radical transformation of the initial 7-berth low-drafted port, which was constructed in 1928, to an ultra-modern port fitted with deep-drafted container, multi-purpose dry bulk, and liquid bulk facilities. The 16-meter deep dry bulk terminal is the deepest in the sub-region, with a total quay length of 800 meters. It is fitted with a combined 3-kilometer length conveyor system, which comes with a 2,500 metric tons per hour ship loading capacity, which has greatly improved ship turnaround time at the port. The Marshall Liquid Bulk Terminal is a fully automated liquid bulk facility dredged to -14 chart datum and equipped with automated firefighting system. The facility is fitted with 5 loading arms for gasoline, diesel, LPG, bitumen, and heavy fuel. On the container side, Takoradi Port's 16-meter deep Yield-Port and ATSL container terminal with a key length of 600 is expected to receive container vessels in the 3rd quarter of the year.
All right, so welcome back. This is Iron Port, and I've been told by the production team that we can activate the phone lines for you to call in. The number to dial is 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. It's right on your screen. You can call and contribute to the discussion. And pretty shortly, we shall be sharing your messages with the rest of the world. I realize that some of you were calling the WhatsApp line. That's the 053. That is the WhatsApp line. It's not for you to call in. 0538 037353. That's the call, the WhatsApp line. You can't call that line. What you can call is what's on your screen, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. So with us in the studios, like I said, is Mr. Daniel Elsel, Deputy Director at the Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Directorate at the Ministry of Transport. He's sharing some insights with us as far as Ghana's quest to transition to e-vehicles is concerned, emanating from Ghana's launch of the electric vehicle policy last year in faraway Dubai. The launch was performed by His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and since then he's told us what's being done to ensure that we have a seamless transition. He revealed that statistics from the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority indicates that we have 19,000 hybrid, that's EV hybrid vehicles. That means that they can run on fossil and they can run on EV, electric as well. And then strictly, we have like 2,000 strictly electric vehicles in the country, and we have like 6 charging points in the Greater Accra region. He mentioned the points as ANC Shopping Mall, Movenpick Ambassador Hotel, Total, they also have one. Medina, there's one charging point, and indeed at Kaneshi. These are the charging points for electric vehicles in the country at the moment. And he also indicated that there are plans to construct more across the country. And I indicated in my preamble or some initial submission that STC, we understand, has signed a contract or an MOU with a private entity to bring in some 100 electric buses. And so that's going to add some kind of impetus to our quest to, as it were, transition to electric vehicles. And so you can call in and contribute to the discussion. But let me come to Mr. Essel once again and find out from you how the climate change unit will be able to monitor effectively and also evaluate the progress of the EV transition and what the expected outcomes are supposed to be.
Yes. When you look at the whole EV ecosystem, you need different players to come on board. You need the Ministry of Energy Commission. You need from the ministry, you need the DVLA. From even the import side, the Ministry of Trade. So the players in that space are many. And for each player, in terms of mandate, they all have their clear roles.
Right.
Now, you need somebody to drive that EV agenda. And in the policy, the idea was that how do you then coordinate all the effort of these players?
Yes.
And that was one of the thinking behind the setting up of a climate change unit. In that, you're able to really have a bigger watch on what other sectors are doing as far as the policy implementation is concerned. In the policy, there are clear-cut strategies and activities that each ministry, department, or agency have to do.
Yes.
And for a policy of such nature, you need that body, more or less a coordinating body to look at the rules of the various players and what they are doing as far as the implementation are concerned.
Right. Okay. So this one is from Mohima, one of our regular texters. She says, good evening. I am Port. Very insightful discussion. Thank you for the topic. How much does it cost to charge for each of the levels? That's first question. And the second, considering the fact that saloon cars are also used for public transport services, what metrics will be used by GRA at the point of importation to tell whether the saloon vehicle is going to be used for public transport?
Okay, so maybe I'll take the last one, and then I'll come back to the first one. Now, on the vehicle import side.
Okay, so yes, please shelve it and hold your fire for now. Let's go on to the phone lines. And welcome from Domi Abra, Aloliga. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Awesome. Can you speak up a bit, sir?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my question is about the vehicles, the electric vehicles that they are bringing in.
Yes.
Have they trained people on how to work on them? If we are not able to train people enough to take care of them, then they will break down within a short time, and our business will not really go very well.
Yes.
Secondly, we have said so much that we have done better roads, and if the roads are not good, these are electric cars. These heavy shocks that we face on the roads will spoil them in a short time. So let us see if we can prepare ourselves properly so that these cars, when they come, they can last in the country.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Those are legitimate concerns. He is talking about maintenance of electric vehicles, whether we have personnel who have been trained to take care of them, and also road infrastructure, given the nature of our roads. I mean, he feels that, they might not be that conducive if they are supposed to remain the way they are now for e-vehicles. Maybe just proffer a response, and then we'll go to address Oima's question.
Okay, so on the infrastructure bit,
yes.
In fact, I'm not surprised that question came.
Yes.
In fact, when we were doing the policy, as far as the consultations were concerned,
yes,
going through Go also all the way to Takrade, and then even up north in terms of the road infrastructure.
Yes.
Yes, somebody asked, they have a tipper truck called Abion.
Yes.
And they are carrying a truck, a full load of sand, and he was asking, when they bump into a pothole, even with the Abion,
yes, when
they bump into the pothole, the engine goes off.
Yes.
And he asks, what will happen in the case of an electric? So these are legitimate questions that I think we need to respond to. And indeed, in the policy, we do recognize the importance of having at least some fair road infrastructure that is able to
support
meet.
Yeah.
In fact, the EVs are not so different from the vehicles we use now.
Yeah.
It's just changing your fuel tank.
Yeah.
You are replacing that with
a
a
battery. Yeah.
You are changing your engine with a drive motor.
Yes.
So it's the shocks and whatever, the tires still remain the same. You don't need any superficial infrastructure to have the EVs to run. But yes, the EV recognize the importance of having at least some fair road network.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you have a look at that policy, you will see some clear indication of what we need to do going forward as far as our road infrastructure is concerned.
Okay.
Now, the question on the training,
yes,
I think is key, but it's also important to know that EVs themselves require low maintenance.
Right.
Unlike the ICEs where you need a gearbox mechanic, you need a transmission mechanic, you need a engine and all those things. EVs,
auto electricians and all that.
Maybe auto electricians and some few bodyworks and so the maintenance requirements are low. Why? Because the moving parts on an EV are just few.
Right.
It's just the drive motor.
Right.
And then the wheels, which are all normal. So the big issue of engine is no more.
Right.
So in terms of maintenance, they are very low on maintenance in terms of running part and all. The key issue it will be then, how then do we transition all those mechanics and artisans who have been trained and over the years have made a living from servicing the ICE vehicles. So we have something we call, we need to ensure inclusive transition.
Right.
So in your transition, you are making sure that whoever is within the space is taken care of. No artisan will lose his job because we are transitioning.
Yes.
Can we retrofit them, have a new way of doing things for them?
Right.
If you recall, we moved from the typewriters. Now we have computers.
Absolutely.
So those who are sitting there typing,
sure.
There should be a transition process for them. Gone were the days when the automatic is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But now it's with us.
Absolutely.
A lot of people now prefer automatic. Same for EV. So that transition process, we have what we call stranded assets. And these stranded assets are our mechanics, our artisans, and all those in the ecosystem. So how do we make sure that there's that transition process for them? So it comes back to the training, the point I raised earlier, that we need to really build capacity going forward. Issues of TVET, can we rely on them in terms of the bringing in the needed capacity, the training and all that?
Yes.
Our universities, technical universities and the rest, can we have a change of the curricula so that they can start running programs in that? So these are all arrangements that have been clearly mapped out in the policy. And once we zoom into implementation, I'm sure we can.
Okay, I'm going to Binaba in the Upper East region to welcome Abel. When we come and we're done with him, then we'll have to address Oyema because she was the first to send the message for us to address. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Awesome. Please shoot. Hello, Abel?
Yes.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, please. I just want to find out if I have my car and I want to change. For instance, I have my. Hello?
Yes, we are hearing you. Please go ahead.
I'm saying that if I have my car, like for instance, I have Vibe that I want to change. How much will it cost me to do all these things?
To change, you want to change to electric vehicle, to EV. Hello? I think we're having, but I think his question is crystal clear. He just wants to find out how much it would cost him to transition. Like, he has his car right now that he's using. He wants to change. I don't know whether he wants to swap or he wants to change, the fuel side into to a battery to make it an EV.
Yeah, so I think what he meant was retrofitting.
Yes.
Whether if he have his ICE, he can change it to run on electric. And I think, in fact, there is a company here doing that, but on a pilot scale.
Okay.
But I bet you, when you go there now, the price estimate, you need to sell your kidneys before you can do that.
Afford it.
So it comes back to the point of the CAPEX and making sure that we're able to reduce the cost of the various components, of the parts, the batteries, and the rest.
Yeah.
So we come back to that same point. I think we need to have a certain program. But one critical issue is the certification of these companies that will be engaged in the retrofitting.
Absolutely.
We do see quite a lot of promise, because I did mention the stranded assets.
Yes.
The stranded assets include the current vehicles that run on ICEs. That's the petrol and diesel vehicles. They're all stranded assets in that in the near future you can no longer use them. So how do you make sure that you're able to retrofit them to run the same purpose?
Certainly.
So we come back to that same point about cost.
Yes.
And then making sure the right things are done. So if you are licensing a company to be doing that service, it should be able to meet a certain efficiency and some criteria. You just don't do it anyhow.
Yeah.
If you recall, DVLA had this in their regulation in terms of the changing of the vans into the bus.
Yes.
And there's a clear-cut requirement that before you change your van into a bus in terms of fitting on the seat, you first need to approach the DVLA.
Yeah, so they give the specifications.
Yes.
Right.
But people just go and do it at some wayside anyhow, and then
people are suffering in their throats.
In terms of measurement and
exactly. Yes. Let's welcome from Mama Saman Solomon. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Awesome. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes. Concerning the electric vehicles usage in Ghana, you realize that we have hybrid vehicles in Ghana.
Yes.
Which more or less has more of electrical compartments.
Yes.
That helps in reducing the petrol consumption. Is just an update of what you are just discussing, where the petrol system will be eliminated completely. But the challenge with this has to do with the rules in Ghana and the kind of atmosphere that we drive our vehicles. I wonder how the how do we call it? The
I think you talked about routes, which is one issue that we've dealt with already. Yes, Solomon, thank you very much from Mama Saman. He also has some concerns about, whether our routes are actually conducive for the e-vehicles and all that. Maybe if you want to profile any response to what he has said, but I would prefer we deal with Ohima's question first, so that we sort it out before we move to there. Are some other messages here. I don't know whether you recall her question. He says, one says, how much does it cost to charge for each of the levels? And considering the fact that saloon cars are also used for public transport services, what metrics will be used by the Ghana Revenue Authority at the point of importation to tell whether the saloon vehicle is going to be used for public transport?
Yes.
So she talks about the Uber, the taxis, and all that.
Yes, yes. So on that, we're going to have an arrangement with
the ride-hailing cabs, so to speak. Yeah.
And not just them alone, but we'll have an arrangement with the GRA and then the DVLA. Already the DVLA is at the port, and in fact, before your vehicle leaves the port, they issue you the DP plate.
Right.
I think we can have an arrangement where you could look at an option of doing the registration even at the port.
Right.
Then your vehicle is tagged as a commercial vehicle right from entry.
Right.
So that the idea of having that in terms of what vehicle come within the space and all that. But we can also have a certain arrangement where you could have any applicant. Once you want to come into that space, go through a certain approval process.
Right.
The National Road Safety Authority has been established. And in fact, as far as public transport operations are concerned, they are the regulators of that. And if for you to run any service, you need to be registered under their umbrella. So within that framework, if you are coming in to run commercial operations, then the road safety should be able to recognize you and as such, and then the necessary exemptions or whatever might be can be applied to you. So that will be a process that we need to go through.
Right. Okay. This one says, hi, this is Derek from Kaneshi. As an ordinary Ghanaian, I'm concerned about the cost and availability of electric vehicles. Will there be affordable options for the average person, and how will the government ensure that we have enough charging stations, especially in rural areas, if you want to? Well, we have barely 3 minutes to wrap up, though.
Okay, so maybe on the charging stations, what we are encouraging, there are a lot of IPPs, but we could also have some options on having some solar installations in certain areas where access to the grid is even different. But from the last check, we have about 89% in terms of penetration, in terms of electricity access. So as far as Africa is concerned, or West Africa, we are on top in terms of coverage, access to electricity. Now, the key question he raised is the rural areas where they could have access to charging infrastructure. But we could explore the solar, having some standalone charging infrastructure for those areas. And I think it works very well for these smaller units, 2 and 3-wheelers.
Right. This one is from Vanessa in Ashalibotwe. She says, how will the government and companies ensure that there are enough trained mechanics and service centers to maintain and repair electric vehicles across the country?
I think I've touched.
You've touched on that.
But yes, we collaborating with is it
NAVTEC, okay.
MVTI and
yes, National Vocational Training Institute.
Yes. There's that collaboration that we've just started, and I'm sure we can build that.
Okay. There's one last one. I'm told by the production team that we have less than a minute to wrap up. It says, with the current issues we sometimes face with electricity supply in Ghana, how reliable will the electricity be for charging electric vehicles, and what plans are in place to address potential power shortages? Abevio in Kaswa Sender. I think you've responded to that already. And so this is how we'll draw the curtain on tonight's edition of Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Tonight we've been taking a look at Ghana's transition to e-vehicles. And so we took some update from the Ministry of Transport. With us in the studios has been Mr. Daniel SL, Deputy Director from the Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Directorate of the Ministry of Transport. He's brought us up to speed with what our current situation is, and the indications are that, yes, we are on course to achieving whatever targets we've set for ourselves as far as transitioning to e-vehicle is concerned. We say thanks to the Ministry of Transport for the human job that they are doing there, and especially to Mr. SL, whose first time on Iron Port is this week or today. We know that we'll have more of these discussions along the line. We appreciate it so much. And so we also say a big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Revenue Authority, GWEL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the Popo Show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA. We entreat you to watch the abridged version of Iron Port on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Ghana Television, GTV. We wish you a super week ahead, and we thank you so much for choosing Iron Port. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite Iron Port Show. My name is Kennedy Mona. Thank you for choosing us. God bless you, and keep watching the rest of the programs here on Metro TV. Good evening.